And the job was for processing phone insurance claims for a major American cell phone provider. It paid $13 an hour, and 6 weeks after you were done training, you would get health insurance. And I went in for 2 interviews. The first was one-on-one, and the second was with a group. And in both interviews, they'd ask these really weird questions like, how can you be a hero at work? And that seemed to demand sort of bullshitty answers, which of course I gave, but it felt weird and really disingenuous. Like, I'm not applying to become a firefighter here. We know this is a bullshit job. And it was a little weird too that after more than a month of applying to jobs, this was the first place to offer me an interview, and they hired everyone who walked in the door. On the group interview, there was 12 of us, they hired 11. The only person they didn't hire said in the interview that to be a hero at work, she would commit fraud. And that was the norm. Anyways, people I knew in town would have warned me about working at a call center. Everyone in New Brunswick has done that, and probably, I'm guessing half the people here tonight have too. They would say, how overwhelming it is, how demeaning it is, how they would quit after only a few weeks. But it felt like at my call center, they were trying to be a likable employer, a good workplace. On the first day, they gave us endless supply of coffee and 20, 30 muffins, which everyone ate, but it was not on my meal schedule. But I still appreciated this sort of gesture of we'll feed you today. But besides the slight disappointment of not having any free muffins, the training week was really great and really fun. We did things that serious things like learning how to take calls or getting input into the system or learning what acceptable workplace behavior was, which here was mostly you can't be drunk at work, or you can't let your supervisors know you're drunk at work, and you can't send dick pics to coworkers. These had both been apparently issues there before, but it felt the first week we mostly played games and got to know each other, and it became really quickly apparent that this was a job that didn't really require you to be totally there. During the training modules, they'd have this text on screen, and it would take 10 seconds to read, but then there'd be this voice that read it out, and you couldn't advance to the next slide until the voice was done reading. So I would sit there for 50 seconds, just drawing my coworkers or the view of my window or whatever. And so this is from the sketchbook I had with me at that time of my coworkers. I can't remember any of their names. But it seemed to me that as long as you knew a few of the basic points of insurance and could say things, so you could explain to people on the other end of the line why they're either being rejected or approved, and you could say things with this real empathy and understanding. You'd say I'm so sorry to hear that, but I'm here to help. Then you didn't really need to know much for this job. And we'd practice doing fake calls, and I got pretty good at it. I was really good at being an irate customer, but I also was pretty good at dealing with my coworkers, as they call it, and going through the prompts on the computer screen. The calls, you're supposed to take control of the call, get answers out of people, move on, and do the call in under 2.5 minutes. And this was really hard to practice downstairs because we were so nice. It was a loving group of trainees. But then the first Friday, we went upstairs to do actual calls in the call center scenario, and it was total chaos. So they gave us these headsets that were so small and dinky that you could barely hear what the person was saying to you on the other line. And I just felt I spent all afternoon leaning into the earpiece saying, "I'm sorry, can you say that again?" But then on top of that, there's 250 people on the call center floor taking calls at the same time, and there's no meaningful sound barriers. So it was just chaotically noisy, and you could hear people shouting and all these things happening. They'd be handing out snacks to you, and you'd be trying to speak as you waved off the person, but they had never had anyone reject snacks, so they would come even closer, and then you'd try and get your glucometer and be diabetic, and then the person on the line. Anyways, it was total chaos, and I remember physically shaking as I left and drove home at the end of that first day on the floor, thinking this is not going to be good.